Hello and welcome to One to One. Now then, where are you flying from for your summer holiday? Bristol or Cardiff Airport? Because my guest today is hoping it will be the latter. Her name is Debra Barber and she's the Managing Director of Cardiff Airport.
Hello, Tim.
Hello, welcome to One to One.
Thank you.
Now then, I haven't chosen my summer holidays yet.
Right.
If I were to choose Cardiff over Bristol, where could I go?
Well, we've got a number of routes that you find attractive in the summer. We've got over 50 direct routes, and we've also got really anywhere in the globe that you'd like to travel to via the various hubs. Really popular routes for us in the summer are the Spanish sun destinations, so Palma, Malaga, Alicante. We have Thomas Cook and Thompson doing nice charters to Greece and Turkey. And again, Mediterranean resorts, so lots of opportunities. And then if you wanted to go somewhere a bit further afield, then you'd have the opportunity to travel with Aer Lingus, for instance, via Dublin to New York or other places in the United States. Or of course you could pick up a flight with KLM to Amsterdam, and really then the world's your oyster.
Now that, you see, is a revelation to me.
Yes.
And I'll tell you why, because 2 weeks ago my friend John and his partner Kath, they went to Tenerife.
Right.
They went to Bristol.
Yes.
They got on the aeroplane and they said all the accents around them were Cardiff and South Wales.
Yeah.
And he was saying, why oh why couldn't I have had that holiday from Cardiff?
Well, he could have done. And I say this is, part of our message to, the people in Wales who want to travel. Always look at Cardiff Airport. There are lots of opportunities here for you to get those flights.
But in terms of numbers, you dealt with 1.1 million passengers last year and Bristol 6 million passengers. You must get a bit bored with this question.
Yeah.
Why is it? Why is it that so many of us are having to or choosing to cross the bridge to Bristol?
Yeah. Well, I think, there's a lot of reasons for that. And you need to go back really to the sort of late 1990s and 2000 when the low-cost airlines were beginning to sort of really come to the fore. And also charter operations were changing. At that time, we were talking with EasyJet. They were becoming quite interested in Bristol, but around that period they acquired Go, the airline that was with British Airways, and they had a base at Bristol. So EasyJet then, having acquired Go, decided to consolidate their operation at Bristol, which took EasyJet into there. At the same time, there was a lot of changes in the charter world. We did have, I think, 5 operators here. That went down to 2 when companies closed and merged. So again, we suffered quite a significant drop in our operations then. And I think also it has quite a bit to do with the management of our sort of principles at the time in terms of how we operated with airlines. And the company that owned the airport at the time had a philosophy that revenue would be generated directly through charges to airlines. So at the same time as we were beginning to lose airlines, also we weren't operating in a competitive way. So I think that all started to sort of push the momentum towards Bristol. And I think over the years, there's the perception now, and a lot of our passengers in Wales have got used to taking flights from not just Bristol. There are a lot of people from Wales going to London airports. And that's been our focus over the last 2 or 3 years, is, beginning to get people more aware of the fantastic services and routes that are now available at Cardiff Airport. And particularly Flybe coming to us in the summer. Last summer has added another 14 routes to our network. Vueling have done exceptionally well here. They started from a standing start 4 years ago. Nobody had ever even heard of Vueling, and I think through the sort of awareness campaigns that they did and we did with them, Vueling is now immensely successful. They're going to be taking 140,000 passengers from Wales next summer, having started from zero. So it's all about, making people aware and people just beginning to understand that, there are great opportunities from Cardiff and, that's potentially where they should look, when they're booking their holidays.
Well, you did have a very good year, didn't you, in 2015?
We did.
Passenger numbers were seriously up.
Yeah.
In no small part because of Rugby World Cup.
Yes.
But it wasn't always that way? Because you were here, you started in 2012
Yes.
when the Spanish owners here, I think I'm right in saying, were sort of running the airport down.
Yeah, I think, it is fair to say that we were struggling at that time.
Well, there was talk of selling it.
There was talk of selling it, and obviously they did in 2013 to the Welsh Government. But yeah, I think there was overall a sort of lack of investment in the airport infrastructure. And again, this didn't help. You know, I talked just now about the perception that people had about Cardiff Airport. And, you know, it was seen as, you know, an airport that was becoming very tired, you know, not keeping up with the sort of technology changes that were going on at other airports. And we had a lot of, quite critical infrastructure that was not being maintained properly. Maintenance contracts were cut, and we sort of developed a fix on fail mentality. So yeah, it needed a lot of work done to it, and I think there wasn't an appetite from our Spanish owners to actually make the investment in the company that was needed to do that.
But then the Welsh Government came along and they did buy it for £52 million. But just recently the Welsh Audit Office has said that it really was worth between 20 and £25 million. Now I know these valuations go up and down, but some people are saying that the taxpayer was ripped off in that.
Yeah, well, I think that's the important point there is in terms of not necessarily a valuation, but a sort of range of potential price. But I think Roger Lewis and I, our chairman, appeared before the Public Accounts Committee this week, and we did talk about this. And I think Roger made the point quite rightly that we don't know what was in the minds of the seller when they were going through those negotiations, and we at the airport don't know what was in the minds of the buyer. And it could have been that they paid too much. It could have been that they didn't pay enough.
We'll never know.
We never know, as Roger says, and I think that's absolutely the case. But I think the most important point is it at the time, as we said just now, I think there was a very real danger that the future of the airport, the airport didn't have a future. And can you name a capital city in the world that doesn't have an international airport, serving that city and the region around it? So I think, the government made absolutely the right decision at the time to safeguard this strategic asset for Wales and the economy. So I think we need to sort of just see it in that whole context.
Of course, it's not just the airport and flights and people like me banging on about my summer holidays, because this airport supports 1,750 jobs.
Yeah.
And it's, as I say, it's not just, going into the terminal and going on holiday, is it?
No. And like I say, this takes us back to the strategic value of this site. We've got British Airways Maintenance Cardiff, shares the site with us. They employ, I think, over 600 people now, highly skilled workforce, as you can imagine, and the benefits that brings into the local economy. We now, by the end of March, we'll be employing about 220 people directly by the airport company, but we also have other people. We've got an air traffic service provided by NATS. We have Swissport do all the ground handling. We have people here doing cargo, fuel, airport caterers. There's a whole host of people whose jobs rely on this site, and it's not only people who work here directly. Of course, people who book holidays in Wales invariably might do it through travel agents. So there are travel agents whose jobs depend on the airport. So you cast the net wide, and that 1,750 becomes a huge amount more.
One of the things people have said could actually help you to increase numbers here is if air passenger duty were devolved to Wales. There are plans to devolve it to Scotland and Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
How much of a difference would that make?
I think, we along with everybody else in the industry, both airlines and airports, are hugely opposed to air passenger duty. It's a really punitive tax. I think, our levels in the UK are higher than anywhere in the world, and it does make, the industry here it makes it difficult in terms of competition. So I think, the latest figures for APD that come in April this year, journeys under 2,000 miles, generally domestic, is £13 on a ticket. over 2,000 miles is £73 on a ticket. So, you know, that's before you add in any operating costs and things like that. So I think, you know, it's a hugely important debate that's going on at the moment about where, you know, we're going with APD and what needs to be done about it.
Thank you. We'll be back with Debra Barber, the Managing Director of Cardiff Airport, after this break. Welcome back to One to One, where my guest today is Debra Barber. She's the Managing Director of Cardiff Airport. Debra, you started your career in 1984 in the RAF.
I did.
We've heard a lot of talk about women in the forces recently. What was it like for you going there as a young woman?
I decided from a very early age that I wanted to join the Air Force, and I think I decided as well that I wanted to do air traffic control, because at the time women weren't able to fly aircraft in the Royal Air Force. They are now. We have fast jet pilots. You know, women do the whole range of jobs. And at the time, air traffic was the sort of closest you could get to, you know, the operational front line. So it was a very popular branch with women at the time. And also, I think, I would say this, but I think, you know, women are very well suited to the task in terms of, you know, the kind of skills that you need. So I think, you know, the air traffic branch was a really great branch for women in the Air Force, because we were able, you know, I think at the time probably less than 10% of women of the armed force of the Air Force was women, but in the air traffic branch it was up around 40. So we were always very well represented. And, you know, I never at any stage in my career felt that I was held back because, you know, I was female. In fact, I think sometimes, you know, it could be helpful. So for me, I found, you know, that it was, you know, I felt very much I was on an equal playing field, and that enabled me to progress through. I think there was still very much a sort of glass ceiling in terms of, you know, the ranks that women could get to, but I'm, you know, really pleased to say that increasingly now women are getting to the highest levels. I think there's a female Air Vice Marshal now in the Air Force, and a very good friend of mine is now an air traffic officer, is an Air Commodore. So, you know, I think things are, you know, really opening up for women now, and I expect to see women going higher.
Because you ended up there as running all air traffic control for the RAF.
Yeah.
Do you think it's just incremental? You know, you were mentioning individuals there. Have we still got a long way to go in society, obviously, but in the forces particularly?
And I think, you know, we have made huge progress, but I think there's still a lot that needs to be done. I mean, we haven't had a female Chief of the Air Staff yet, for instance. You know, whether we will ever see that, I don't know. But I think, and there are still some parts of the armed forces where women are underrepresented. But like I say, you know, when I look back to 1984, when I joined, I mean, we were paid less when I first joined. Women were on a different pay scale, and that was ironed out in the early 90s. So yeah, moving in absolutely in the right direction, and some really great women doing some really important jobs now. But I'd like to see it, you know, get even better.
I'm interested. You said you always were interested in flight and in air traffic control. I'm just imagining this young woman from Filton living near an airfield. Yeah. Were you there every morning and evening going, look, Mum, look, Dad, that's so-and-so aircraft?
Yeah, my dad was in the Air Force. He left when I was quite young, but I don't know what it was. I was just always fascinated by aircraft. And I remember when I was at school, when we got to, well, fifth form as it was, and I don't know what year that is now, but where our headmaster was looking to do work experience for all of us, and everybody else was going off and working in accountancy and, you know, all the sort of standard stuff. And I went into his office and said, I want to be in air traffic control, and he thought, oh, that's a bit of a challenge. But luckily, as say, we had Filton Airport just behind school. So we used to see Concorde doing test flights, you know, so show my age now, but, you know, used to fly regularly around, and I did spend quite a bit of time in the tower at Filton. It was just always something that I've just loved. And, you know, now I look back on I've been in the business now for 30 odd years now, and I still have to sort of get up and look out the window.
You still get that buzz when you hear the engines
when
or
I
smell
hear
the
an
oil.
unusual, engine sound. And also here we get quite a lot of military aircraft coming in for training, and I get a real sort of burst of enthusiasm when I hear a tornado going past the window or something like that.
Now, I was wondering, when you hear a tornado going past the window, you may duck for cover because you spent some time in Iraq, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Back in 2006, I spent 4 and a bit months at Basra Air Station in southern Iraq, working with the coalition forces there.
And what was that like?
I would honestly say it was probably one of the most inspiring times that I had in the Air Force, and I think predominantly because of the stuff that you see people doing out there is just incredible. I mean, for us, I was in a relatively safe position. We used to get rocket attacks every now and again, but we were fairly safe behind, the wire. And to see the Army guys and the RAF regiment who were out every day, with the IED threat and, all that kind of stuff. And even more so, the medic teams, the helicopter crews that used to go and do operations out there. And I think it was just inspiring to see, the sort of heroics that people would get up to. And also, I think, when you're in a situation like that, the sort of team spirit that builds up is just fantastic. I mean, I remember when I came home when I finished my detachment, and as OC operations, I was always able to sit in the jump seat in the cockpit. It was obviously a really good part of the job. But I remember rolling along the runway, and I was almost in tears at the thought of leaving everybody behind. It's just such an emotional thing to actually sort of get airborne and leave everybody there. But yeah, we can see it was a huge experience. Also, as I hope, we were able, one of my key jobs, we were working with the Iraqis to actually get the airport working again on a commercial basis. So, I really hope that we were able to do something constructive, in the time that we spent there to enable them to do that.
Did you get a chance to fly when you were at the RAF, or were you always sort of helping others to do it?
Well, I'll say, by the time women were allowed to fly, I was too old.
Never too old.
Never too old. And to be honest, I don't know that I would ever have really wanted to do it as a profession. Air traffic was just, the thing I love to do. But I was very fortunate to have a lot of opportunities to actually fly in RAF aircraft. So, I've had sort of fast jet trips, and I've flown in, most of the RAF's aircraft. That's one advantage of being a woman in the forces. You do get a lot more opportunities to actually go flying.
Well,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I got quite a lot of opportunities to have a go. But like I say, I was never really, it was never something I wanted to do as a profession.
Okay, let's go back to the day job here at Cardiff Airport. What are the opportunities outside of the day-to-day holiday flights, business flights, do you think that can make this airport stand on its own 2 feet?
I'd say our sort of long-term strategy and aim for this airport is for it to become a sort of really sustainable business that's going to, maximise the economic benefit for Wales. And, the commercial operation, the passengers are always going to be the lifeblood of the business. But we've got to look beyond that at ways that we can, really work the site and get the most from it. So, we're looking at everything that we potentially could do on this site. So, maintenance, repair and overhaul, for instance, we've got, say, British Airways share the site with us, and that brings a lot of jobs and skill and opportunities. So we want to look at, are there other sort of MRO opportunities that we can bring here? Can we develop the freight operation? Can we do more with the military? Can we be offering them more facilities? Can we work with Airbus recently, where they were doing some sort of fairly technical testing here that they used to do at Filton. So can we do more of that kind of thing? So there are. One of the advantages of this airport is, we've got a very long relatively long runway. We've got clear airspace. We don't have any noise issues. We're open 24 hours a day. So there's more unusual activities that can't be done at the more congested airports. We're ideally placed to do that. So we're really looking to build on that.
back to my summer holiday.
Yes.
What are we going to do about the transport links? Because here's criticism, the getting from Cardiff or the South Wales Valleys, getting to Rússia is quite difficult.
Yeah. One of the, again, you know, in terms of where we're placed and where we sit, it's vitally important that the airport is part of all of that sort of strategic transport planning, and there's a lot of work going on at the moment with the Cardiff City deal. You know, the metro is part of that, so we're working really hard with, you know, the 10 local authorities that are part of the capital city deal, with the Welsh Government, with Arriva trains. You know, we've got the T9 service, but say that is really important for us, that we maximise those transport links. And it's not just about, as you say, the link from Cardiff to here. You know, we've got a lot of our customers come from the west, and we've got to make sure, you know, that they're able to get to the airport in the most effective way for them too.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Debra Barber, thanks for going one-to-one with me.
Pleasure, thank you, Tim.